Okay, Dave, thanks so much for joining us today. Dave from Novosound. What I might do is get you to introduce yourself, Dave, and just give us a bit of background as to who you are and to your role at Novosound and what Novosound do.
Okay, so I'm Dr. Dave Hughes. I'm the founder and now the CEO of Novosound. We're an award-winning Scottish manufacturer of advanced ultrasound sensors, and we're currently selling into the industrial non-destructive testing markets. In a nutshell, that's what we do.
In a nutshell, that's good. Oh, excellent. Thank you very much. Well, we thought we would on our regular podcast. We want to try and catch up with all the entrepreneurs who are doing a great job, particularly from the Scottish market. But as Dave suggested, they're a global market now, producing their products for markets right across the globe. So, just give us a bit of insight from your point of view how 2020 has been. It's been obviously a nightmare for everybody, but for you personally and for Novosound, how has 2020 gone?
So 2020, this was meant to be our big year of scale up and growth. We closed our Series A investment round in December 19, and that was with Foresight Williams of the Advanced Engineering Formula One team. So really, the money was in the bank, good to go. Let's have a great 2020. And around about February, we could see it all kind of going dark. So things have been stymied. Markets did close down. We saw it all coming around about end of February or so. So we sent everybody home to do remote working. We haven't lost anybody. We didn't furlough anybody. And rather, when we saw that revenues were being constricted or revenue growth maybe not be going to plan, we really turned our heads to focus on innovation and growing the value of the company instead. So really, we've been fighting through the pandemic as a startup. It's not easy at the best of times, and I wouldn't say it's been easy, but it's definitely not been as bad as other companies have maybe felt the effects of the pandemic.
Sure. And so you talked a wee bit there about innovation and product development, and that was one of the things I wanted to kind of get from you is you guys have kind of evolved your product as it's gone along, and I've noticed over the year new products coming out from Novosound, and I just wanted to get a feel for you as to how you've gone about that in still really challenging markets. Is it been quite easy, or I mean, you manufacture hardware here, if you've got people working from home, has innovation been a challenge for you?
So when we set up the company, we're technologically underpinned as one of our values, and setting up the company, we decided that a lot of what we need to do has to be cloud-based in terms of can we run the business from anywhere on the planet. I did a lot of travel, as you may remember.
I do remember.
Every airport around the world at some point.
Yes.
So we've always had that in the business. Even though we are a hardware manufacturing business, we run it like a software startup. And that really helps, aside from the big 2-ton bit of kit that we have that actually makes the sensors. Nobody could take that home. Yeah. But as I said, we sent people home to do remote working, so we weren't going to trade shows anymore. So without having to be constantly on the move to show people about Novosound, we really thought, let's put our heads down, develop the products. And because additive manufacturing is at the heart of what we do, there's a lot of 3D printing, a lot of design on computer, that from about March through to June, July, we were just working on home on computer, doing everything digitally. There was a time I had a 3D printer in my attic where I was working, and people would email me the files of the latest prototype, half size, that I'd then print out, see in my hands, revision, and then do it. So we were very, very digitalized for a hardware business. And it was really exciting to see how the team could go like that. We had an idea around about the start of March, April, that let's take all the feedback from the trade shows that we'd done up to that point and really come out the gate fast when the world starts moving again. So we created the idea of the Kelpie, Novosound Kelpie, which is our flexible array. So as we know, the Scottish Kelpie legend is a shape-shifting Scottish legend.
Yes.
So is our ultrasound technology. So we thought the Kelpie, the Novosound Kelpie.
Perfect.
And I literally drew a sketch of this in my OneNote with, really, I'm a bad artist. But my tech team, remotely, product development team, have taken it, and in October 1st, we launched the physical product. And I don't know of any other company that could do that, really, in the ultrasound space, certainly, where you go from a really badly drawn sketch in one part of Paisley to, October 1st doing a global launch to the industrial non-destructive testing. So we really it was difficult, and the big bit that hurt was the team culture, trying to maintain. We're a really close, fast-moving, exciting team, and then all of a sudden we've opened 28 offices around the central belt and people's houses, etc. So that was the pain point. That was the bit that was hard, and we're trying to still recapture, and I hope when the world opens we can get back to where we used to be. a year ago this week. We were be doing our Christmas night out. That's not
That's
happening.
right. Yes.
But from an engineering product development stage, we've managed to weather the storm so far.
That's quite amazing, actually. You know, being able to do that, and like you say, not many other companies would be able to do that sort of thing. So, but you touched on an interesting point there about culture. We did some research recently, and one of the things that managers, HR managers, or those who are leading teams really found the challenge was, how do I maintain that culture when everybody's working remotely? You know, have you found good practice? Have you found ways to be able to maintain that?
So we find a way. I think it's the best way to look at it. And some people really take to this new digital world, you know, with webcams and Zoom meetings and everything. Other people would rather not, you know. And I think at the start we maybe went in a wee bit too heavy-handed with, you know, having lunchtime socials and then Friday night socials and all this kind of stuff, where because people are working from home, you have to really understand that if they're doing 9 to 5 working from home, they're probably sitting in one place for 8 hours, and the last thing they want to do is add another hour on another Zoom call with the same people that they've been trying to avoid calls from all day. Whereas when you're working 9 to 5 in an office block, you walk around, you go to the water cooler, you have a coffee, you're much more away from the desk.
Sure.
So we had ideas of how we were going to keep it going at the start of lockdown, and it's kind of organically changed into something quite special by now. And we're trying to work out how we do our Christmas Secret Santas, just getting arranged at the moment and everything. So working out a new way of doing it, hopefully just for this year, and then next year we're back to normal is my hope for how this is going. But really, you can try and force people to do team culture the way that, you know, the CEO wants it to be done. But the best thing I've realized is when it comes to team culture, guide it, don't force it, and just let it happen organically. The ones that have the bits of the company that people enjoy most are the bits that have happened organically.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think you can kind of produce some guidelines, you can offer some suggestions, but culture is very much something that grows organically, you know, and that's the nature of it. So software products obviously dominate the Scottish ecosystem, and that was defined by Mark Logan in his report. But you guys obviously produce hardware, and the general feeling is it can be harder to attract investment for hardware. What sort of you know, for the right premises, and obviously you talked about a 2-ton machine that needs to produce these things. How have you found that in the Scottish market? Has it been a real challenge to convince investors, look, this is something you want to invest in, or have they really bought into the idea?
So I guess the first thing to kind of say is we've been fairly successful in our fundraising activities. You know, we started in April 18 with our seed round, which was one of the biggest in Scottish for that year. I think it was 1.5 million as a seed round straight out of university, and then in December that was about 3.3 million that we closed on our Series A. So we have been successful. Down to the tech that we have, and also the team. You know, investors invest in the team that we've built, and just having the right timing. You know, we thank our lucky stars we got it over the line in December, because if we'd been trying to do that in March, we maybe not be as successful as I'm talking at the moment. But hardware businesses are difficult, and hardware startups are expensive. Don't get us wrong. You know, this is not an easy game at the best of times. And I think in Scotland, we always knew that there's a there's a limit to the amount of money you can raise in Scotland as seed founder in early stage, and you know that cap is maybe moved to about 2 million in terms of what the angel rounds can do. So you do have to start looking at VC, and we kind of saw that happening, which is why we went down to the London-based Foresight Williams EIS fund, and they have offices in Scotland, so it's not quite moving out of the village, but it's getting the London money. We've always kind of said that if we were to do another round, it would probably be more maybe deeper into the London financial or investment scene, or even across the pond, because to scale up a hardware business, it takes a lot of capital. In Scotland, you know, it is a great scene in for getting businesses started. You need a lot of support to start a hardware business, and there's other startups around there that are doing hardware, and they will need support. So I was pleased to see the government commissioning that tech ecosystem review, and it was a great read. I read it cover to cover.
It was a big read. I read that too.
But it was very in depth, and it covered a lot of points. I guess I had a bit of tinge of sadness that tech in the scope of the document was very software based. You know, and it's it's where they come from. I get that completely. But I do have to think that, maybe if we think of hardware businesses or hardware inventions that have came out of Scotland, perhaps in a global or an economic way, there's been more impact from the Scottish inventions of TV, telephone, diagnostic ultrasound, and more people know of these inventions than Skyscanner and FanDuel. So we need a lot of support to create hardware businesses. Scotland is brilliant at invention, as we just listed there. And if we only focus on supporting the software side of the tech scene, it may have quite big implications going forward. So there's a great piece of work, but a bit worrying from a hardware side of things.
That's a fair point, and that's something similar. I talked to Lorenzo from Chroma, and he said something similar. Was exactly that. It just wasn't quite the emphasis on hardware as well, which is it's just the way it is, unfortunately.
The best part you can probably do is when you have a hardware business. Novosound, our advertising, we sell sensors, but we do have a data side to the business because the measurements, you have to do something with the measurements. And the sweet spot is when you can combine the two. If we think of, what Current Health have done, they started off as a hardware on your arm and it's gone major. And, the tech team and timing, put hardware and software together, then you get it. But the government and the support networks need to understand that technology is hard and soft.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Exporting, so you're exporting right across the globe now, and it's a crucial part of the Scottish Government's strategy to combat the potential effects of Brexit or anything that might come around the corner as we've seen from COVID this year. So, what's been the biggest challenges, or what have been the biggest challenges that people might not have thought about when they're exporting abroad? What have you found has been real? Oh, I just didn't see that coming. That sort of moment.
So I think we're early in our commercial traction, and we did start with customers that were outside the UK before we even sold to local UK customers. Okay. So we technically have been exporting since the start, but we're not large volume export, which kind of makes it different. We use package couriers to send things as long as we get the. And we do it right. So, taxes and customs are all done properly, but it's not big volume. It's not lorries leaving Novosound going abroad. But I guess one day, hopefully. I hope so. The thing that really stands out to me about where the problems are going to be, and it's not necessarily something that Novosound will see ourselves, and we are making benefit of at the moment, because when you close down borders to trade, much like what we're seeing with Brexit and in the global pandemic in terms of shutting off whole parts of the world, is the big part of the global network that's going to be affected is the just-in-time manufacturing sector. So if you think about when a car gets made in a plant down in England, various bits of that car are not built in England or in Scotland. They're made over Europe or abroad, and they may cross the channel multiple times before they actually get put into the car, because different companies work together to build parts. If you put any barriers into borders or customs, that slows down that whole process. We've seen that at Novosound, in that some of the customers that have came to us during the pandemic is because parts of the world or trade networks that they used to use are getting closed or slowed down. But we manufacture everything in-house, so we've got a much more localized supply chain, allowing us to keep going and service the UK and Western Europe parts of the ultrasound kind of network. Anything that kind of gets in the way and slows down trade is just the just-in-time manufacturing bit is going to be the bit that gets harmed first.
It's bad for business, isn't it? Absolutely. Yeah. So is there a lot of support around, getting to grips with exporting throughout Scotland or the UK? Have you had quite a bit of support to make that happen?
So a lot of what our learnings come from is doing it. Just working out all the different types of forms that you get to fill out to send products out to America. There's a whole different set of forms to send to Germany, etc. That's going to get worse, as we know. But we have taken advice from Scottish Enterprise SDI. There are networks out there. Yeah. But luckily, I've kind of got a big surrounding of advisors and mentors that I use who have done it all before, have done exporting, have done international trade. So, there is a lot of support that I get. The biggest challenge, I think, is that for all the mentors and advisors around me, very few of them have dealt with something like Brexit. And then if you actually coupling Brexit to a global pandemic at the same time period, you think, does anybody know how this is going to play out?
No, not many people have been through that, really.
Exactly. Which it's quite nice that nobody else, or that everybody's going into this together almost, because we're all
absolutely
with each other. So
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, my next question was going to be around Brexit, but actually, it looks like Sunday might be, D-Day for whatever D-Day looks like. So, I mean, there's no point in necessarily kind of looking for answers, really, because, I mean, the feeling was like, what does it mean for you in terms of a no deal or anything like that? But you've kind of explained how the whole process is just grind to a halt.
There's going to be dark times, I think, for a lot of businesses, and especially, as a startup, you think on your feet, you're very agile, and that's how we've managed over the last 10 months, and we intend to just continue doing what we do for the next 12 months and take it as it comes, really.
Yeah. So. You mentioned there having great advisors, and we've talked about this before, but having the right people around you, having some good advisors, has that really been a big impact? Has it had a big impact on you and your team?
Oh yeah, I mean, I started my journey at Novosound as an academic who'd never seen a P&L table before. My whole career up to becoming CEO last month has been built on the advice that I get from my mentors, my friends, and the people who I meet in the ecosystem. I would not be here if it wasn't for those advice networks that are out there. And that's the companies that give advice, but also the individuals that you just meet at events, which I can't wait for them to start again so I can start getting advice again. But that's crucial. You have to have the support network around you.
Of course. One of the other things I wanted to touch on today was about pivoting. A number of people, most startups will go through this process. You've got a great idea, you've got a great concept, but perhaps you now need to think about pivoting. You guys did that, fantastically. At the start, it was a dental product to start with, wasn't it? It was for the healthcare market, and it's pivoted somewhat. How did you get to that conclusion? At what point was we need to think about this? How did you get to that?
So without the risk of make it sound like the background to Novosound is completely wrong, and let me play this out. So most people do, from 2017, 2018, a lot of people do think Novosound has been that dental project that they saw being pitched at EIE or around the investment thing. And that's right. I did open my pitches always saying dentists are terrifying, being the whole thing about dentistry. The thing that people seem to forget, and maybe it's just I didn't hold their attention for the full 60 seconds of it, is that we did say it is hard to launch a medical device. So we're going to generate early revenues in the industrial sector, in aerospace, oil and gas. And if you think about where we sell to at the moment, we sell to aerospace and oil and gas. So we are actually still looking at dental, and hopefully have some news on that very soon, which I'm quite happy about. We'll see what happens. So we are still looking at medical, and we did a whole work over wearables for COVID detection over the last 10 months. We presented that in Germany, or a virtual German conference last month. So we do still look at medical imaging. Early revenues are coming from the industrial sector. So I guess it's not so much difficult to refocus. My background was biomedical ultrasound. My business partner, Richard Cooper, who used to be the CEO, he was from the industrial sector. You put that together, and basically the idea always, right from that initial pitch, was we want to be a medical imaging company in some fashion, but let's not just use investors' money to get there. Let's use early revenues, commercial traction to demonstrate this new tech, and then get there someday. So the advice for those who are kind of contemplating pivot, don't call it a pivot. Call it the plan. Sticking to the plan all along.
That's a good point, actually, because I know a lot of people will be looking for investment, and having the revenues. I mean, that will obviously have helped you. You mentioned, you had one of the best seed rounds a couple of years ago, and that made a real difference. I would imagine, as there was early revenues, because you had not refocused. It was part of the plan, was to get those revenues in and then build towards the medical. And I do remember you saying, look, it's probably going to be 5 years before we get to the medical part of this, but that's part of the plan, and that's part of our process that we want to go through. So, so I guess just finally then, what does 2021 look like for Novosound? I mean, it's great that you're now the CEO. You are at the helm now. So what does 2021 look like?
So as I said, 2020 was meant to be the year of growth and scale up. And so that's 21 now. I've decided that's the plan all along. So basically when I said, so 2021 is hopefully going to be the year of growth. We launched a set of 3 products in October 1st of this year. The culmination of all that home working. That was our Occam's solution line, and Occam's razor, if you're a physicist, know is the simplest solution is the best solution, or the right solution, and that's our non-destructive testing brand. There's the Kelpie, the Belinus, which is the high temperature sensor, and then there's our Nebula, which is our cloud platform. We've launched them digitally. We've done all the digital virtual events for them. 2021, when the world opens again and trade shows start and we can get out speaking to customers, it's all about building the company around these, growing the revenues, basically advancing our customers' NDT, non-destructive testing, and getting to medical. That's the target for the next 12 months.
And is there a market out there that's key for you guys? At the moment, I know you spent time in the States and you've been all over the world, really. So, where is there some key markets for you?
Yeah, so we are currently focusing a lot of the energy on the Belinus, which is the high temperature permanently installed sensor. That's very much in the UK power generation market. So we've throughout COVID, we had a great opportunity an order came in to buy sensors from us for a power station in northeast England, and there's now sensors rolled out in that monitoring high temperature corrosion inside of almost 400 degrees centigrade boiler. No one else can do that. So we are going to focusing a lot of the early part of the calendar year on basically repeating that sale across the power stations in the UK. We also had a great aerospace customer came in, huge aerospace customer came in from America. So that's our kind of aerospace target market over there. Really building on the ones we started. A lot of our customers that come in, because it's new tech, needs to be de-risked. So they de-risk it by taking on small contracts that we hope to grow in 21.
Brilliant. Well, listen, it sounds great, and thank you very much for all your time today and for chatting to us. And hopefully we'll catch up again soon. No doubt. Hopefully I'm not sitting in a room somewhere. But listen, thanks so much for your time today, Dave. And do you want to give us an idea of where people can find your products and catch up with you? Yes.
So if you're on Twitter, then we're obviously Novosound UK is our Twitter handle. There's Dave Hughes Megahertz, MHZ. You find me with things there.
I do see you talking about whiskey on there.
LinkedIn's our big platform at the moment. The shop front to the world is the LinkedIn, and also our website, www.novosound.net. And you can also email me, dave@novosound.net as well.
Perfect. Thanks so much for your time today, Dave. Cheers.
Thank you very much. Cheers.